Hello, dear friends, and this information does not come from a book, but from an angel's father. Opinion piece. Four paths of being. Lead, iron, silver, and gold. Divine will is not always ours. The golden path is the most difficult. Let's start. I have discovered the difference between the paths of lead, iron, silver, and gold according to alchemical tradition. The path of lead is the worship of the physical body and its pleasures, and it leads to confusion. The iron path develops control of the mind over the body, producing stoic balance and resilience. The silver path develops the power of the soul over the mind and body to achieve power, prestige, and money, and preached by some YouTube gurus. On the contrary, the path of gold develops the power of the spirit over the soul, mind, and body, and leads to enlightenment. This higher path is the most difficult, since it requires the total surrender of the soul to the will of the spirit, and authorizing it every day to assume control of our life and ascend the body. But it is also the most satisfactory path because it leads to the mystical union. Sometimes the will of the spirit does not coincide with the will of the soul, and this implies sacrifice to the divine will, even if it goes against our interests. This requires a total surrender to the divine will, even if you are left lying and humiliated like a rag. It is the path of the saints, and it is the most minority, because no one has the vocation of a martyr. As Jesus said, Father, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. Purification. In alchemical tradition, gold is considered the purest and highest metal, associated with spirit, enlightenment, and spiritual transformation. On the contrary, silver is considered a metal that represents the mind, intuition, and clairvoyance. Copper symbolizes the soul, emotions, and connection with the inner world, and lead is associated with the physical, the material, and the earthly. The spiritual path of gold is considered the most difficult because it involves going through challenges and tribulations, just as gold must be purified through fire to reach its purest and most valuable state. In spiritual tradition, gold is used as a metaphor to illustrate how difficulties and trials in life are necessary to achieve spiritual perfection. Just as gold must be subjected to fire to purify itself and remove dross, people must also face challenges and tribulations to grow spiritually and achieve inner purity. This process of spiritual purification involves facing trials with faith, repentance, and an attitude of humility, similar to how gold is purified and cleansed to become something valuable and pure. Through the analogy of gold, it is highlighted that difficulties and trials are necessary to separate what is valuable from what is superfluous, allowing the human being to reach a state of greater spiritual purity and perfection. Mercury represents the mind, intelligence, reasoning, logic, intellectual curiosity, and the ability to communicate, that is, the connection between the human and the divine. In addition, Mercury is linked to the respiratory system, the brain areas of language and intelligence, as well as the connection between the microcosms of the human being and the macrocosm of nature through the respiratory rhythm. The metal that represents the control of the mind over the body, producing a stoic balance and resilience, is iron. In the alchemical tradition, iron symbolizes strength, endurance, and transformation, which relates directly to the idea of mental control over the body to achieve balance and endurance. In alchemy, iron is associated with the planet Mars and represents masculine energy, action, determination, and protection. Additionally, iron is linked to the ability to overcome obstacles and make significant changes. Therefore, iron is the metal that embodies the ability to control the mind over the body, promoting a state of balance and stoic resistance. Repeating messages. There are some messages that resonate with you and others that bore you and make you sleepy or yawn. I listen to spiritual messages every day that say almost nothing new, but rather repeat a series of topics that seem generated by artificial intelligence to leave you in a diffuse cloud of peace, love, and light. This doesn't mean that they are fake, but that things look very different from up there than from down here. The most common problem is that they do not talk about concrete facts that interest us all, but rather they remain at a metaphysical level that can be very real in higher state of consciousness, but that doesn't coincide with our daily reality or be found a precise way to apply them to solve our specific problems, which are many. But this judgment is a generalization that cannot be applied in all cases, because there are some messages that are very good, and they are those that I select every day. But there are others that are too long, and I only find one or two paragraphs useful. Conciseness and brevity are not usually a general virtue of spiritualists, with some sections, because in most cases they roll up like blinds to repeat the same thing in different paragraphs. If the virtues of journalism are topicality, clarity, precision, conciseness, brevity, objectivity, and immediacy, and the ability to convey the greatest possible information with the fewest possible words, it is clear that most spiritualists lack these virtues. The good thing, if brief, is twice as good, because for a good understander, a few words are enough. These principles not only guide the production of high quality content, but also strengthen the relationship of trust with the audience. Journalists cannot always guarantee the absolute truth, but rather offer different opinions and provisional versions of the facts so that everyone can draw their own conclusions. The daily work offers the possibility of correcting or clarifying any information published the previous day in the event that the new data on the subject appears. Therefore, this is very far from the dogmas of any religion, because we modify our point of view as more information appears. On the other hand, there are messages aimed at those who do not understand things that are constantly repeated in our stomach, just like the burning sensations we suffer when we eat a heavy meal. They resemble the repetitive sermon of a village priest that leaves parishioners asleep or yawning with boredom. I repeat, they are not all the messages, nor are they all the sources, but they are the majority. It is far from my intention to spit against the sky, but I do not rule out the possibility that all the messages do not come from benevolent civilizations, but that there are some coming from someone who has a hidden agenda and who intends to program us like a head of a ship to achieve their selfish and particular objectives. Reset news. According to Mike Adams, a deal has been reached to install Donald Trump and fund the Republican Party, The main drivers of this deal are donors who are fed up with Democrats. That's why there has suddenly been a shift to supporting Republican candidates. The Air Force notified Congress that it intends to close HARP, HAARP, a controversial Alaska-based research facility that studies an energetic and active region of the upper atmosphere. It has been speculated that the high-frequency active research program was designed to control the weather. Buffner said, "The ways of the world are changing. The heavy-handed ways in which the elite have handed out trinkets and disrupted people's lives have diminished, and the number of those caught up in their shenanigans is decreasing. You all have the right to reflect on all this. It is essential to stay objectively out of everything. The essential elements you want to know aren't available yet, but they won't be until things are in the right space for everything to happen according to due diligence. Make the best of it and wait for the turn of the mill." According to Benjamin Fulford, the coalition's victory is becoming obvious in multiple ways. For example, as Reuters reports, in quotes, talks to craft a global pact to help combat future crises have ended without a draft agreement by the expected deadline. A good metaphor for what is about to happen is the movie The Island. In this movie, people lived in an underground bunker and they were told they were sheltering for a natural disaster. However, the lucky ones will soon be allowed to go to an island paradise. The reality is that these people were clones whose purpose was to supply organs to a wealthy clientele. At the end of the film, the clones were released to live their natural lives. The secret battle for planet Earth took place between two alternative timelines for the future. One was the liberation of humankind to evolve as it wanted, and thus began a new Cambrian explosion. The other was the enslavement of humankind, and more dominoes will soon fall. Reflections. According to Kesharas, the veil of separation is created by stories of the mind, layer upon layer of confusion, programming and beliefs. That's why we say tune in to the light of the heart, and you will begin to see what is real, what really matters. You form an arc in consciousness with anyone with whom you make an agreement. Noah and his wife defended a fifth dimensional arc in the consciousness between them, called Noah's Ark, allowing them to absorb the matrices of the animal kingdom into the ark as a safe haven against the global cataclysms that followed the sinking of Atlantis. According to David Wilcock, Lucifer's Palace in Antarctica is an extensive underground city located beneath the ice-covered continent. Legends say it is a hidden oasis of light and energy created by fallen angels after being cast to Earth. Lucifer's Palace is said to be guarded by diabolical soldiers and is rumored to be the seat of power of privileged people. The city walls and buildings are said to be made of stone and carved with occult symbols and glyphs, tall and imposing with dark and Luciferian architecture. The city is illuminated by a mysterious blue light that shines brightly in the dark. The atmosphere of the city is tense and oppressive. The air is filled with the smell of sulfur and a deep cold. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.